just different.
Yeah, you already know what it is. Pure money, baby. I keep a couple in the bag, homie, I ain't gotta brag. Even when the hater try to doubt me, I just got another contract. Watch the dollars follow back. Let me tell you one thing about me. Said I like my money pure. I like my money pure. Okay, I like my money pure. I said I like my money pure. Oh no, I like my money pure. The bag is secure. Yeah, I like my money pure. I like my money pure. I like my money pure. Come and hang with the gang. Get some free game added to your mainframe. Gotta keep your mind sharp, we gotta maintain. And it's even better when the squad on the same thing. Steady swishing on the competition. We ain't tripping about the opposition. We on a mission and we got a vision. People in need, we believe we got it like I give a couple in the bag, homie, I ain't gotta brag. Even when the hater try to doubt me, I just got another contract. Watch the dollars follow back. Let me tell you one thing about me. Said I like my money pure. I like my money pure. Okay, I like my money pure. Said I like my money pure. Oh no, I like my money pure. The bag is secure. Yeah, I like my money pure. I like my money pure. I like my money. Been slept on money.
Hey, what is going on, YouTube family, LinkedIn family, Facebook, Instagram? Once again, I appreciate you guys hanging with me today. We have a special segment today. You guys know I usually don't go live on Fridays, but I have a very special guest that I want to bring to the community so you guys can learn a little more about this thing called lobbying. I know we talk government contracting all the time, but a lot of people don't know, they kind of go together. So I wanted to bring that industry to you guys so you can learn a little bit more about it. Hopefully, we can get some more of you guys interested in lobbying all across the United States. And even if you're not interested in lobbying, you could start to partner and understand how lobbying can help you with your business so it can grow and do some amazing things. But our lobbyist today, Phillip Singleton, man, he's a special individual. I met him a while ago through social media. So I'm telling you guys, you really should be utilizing social media to grow your network. But guys, Phillip is located out there in Florida. He is the youngest black lobbyist at the age of 24 when he actually got started. But guys, I don't want to keep diving into this thing. I really want to get into the interview because so much valuable information that we want to share today. So let's jump over here, dive into this thing and find out a little more about Mr. Singleton and lobbying and how it's going to help you out. And if you guys got questions at any time, feel free to put them in the chat as you're watching on the live stream. Don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. But most importantly, I know you're probably on lunch. You know some other people on lunch too. Share this live stream out with them right now so they can get involved and understand this game of lobbying. Let's get it started here. Phillip, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show.
I'm good, Doc. How you doing, Dr. Davis? I appreciate you having me on the show. It was a last minute thing for us to get together, but I have a busy week next week coming up, but I wanted to leave.
Oh man, I think we lost him. We might have lost you, Phillip. See, look how technology works on us. They don't want us to be great.
Up.
I hear you back.
Let me refresh my screen again just in case.
Can you hear us? We hear you. I tell you, see, look, technology don't want us to be great when they know we got some good information going on here. What's happening? Can you hear us?
There we go. Sorry about that. I think we froze up once I started talking.
You good? We got you now.
All right, Dr. Davis, I appreciate you having me on the show. I know we really put this together last minute, but I did want to take some time since I'll be traveling the next week or so to at least take some time and speak with you and your community about the game of lobbying, if anything.
Absolutely. And guys, don't forget, follow Mr. Singleton over there on Instagram, Hip Hop Lobbyist. He also has a YouTube channel. What's the name of your channel?
Hip Hop Lobbyist is my YouTube channel as well. And I also have a gaming channel, Hip Hop Lobbyist Gaming. But for the political content, it'll be Hip Hop Lobbyist overall.
For sure. So make sure you guys check him out as well so we can get his numbers up. Again, we got an action-packed interview today for you guys. So I want to dive into this now. If you could take us back, how did a kid like you get into hip hop and end up as Florida's youngest lobbyist of all, like Florida?
Well, it's not something I ever wanted to do. I mean, I've seen student government in middle school, high school, college, things of that nature, but I was never really overly involved. I've just been an everyday person. Like I would say, the hip hop culture is what I was raised in. I'm a '90s baby, a product of the '90s. But I think my story on how I ended up in politics is kind of a hip hop style narrative. Unpaid intern, college dropout, was really fired from my day job on my off day. And then from there, took an unpaid internship in Florida's capital. And from there, just really kind of let God's will for my life kind of take its own path. And I fell into politics. I'm a natural guy. I'm pretty organic, authentic, if anything,
Yeah.
and just kind of fell in politics and just found my way, if anything.
Yeah, I think that's what like attracted me to you. I'm not gonna lie, is you're authentic. You're just yourself.
Yeah.
I see you joke on social media and stuff. You call people out if they say something incorrectly or whatnot, and that's kind of how I carry myself as well. So I think that's really what made me, be attracted to you and your messaging and the things that you got going on over there.
Got you, dog.
Now, let me ask you, what has been one of your wildest moments so far in your earlier days that shaped your path?
I would say my mom telling me when I was 13 that I had to go get a job and kind of support myself. So I've been the customer service experiences. I would always say I've been a neighborhood bag boy at Winn Dixie. I've been a banker. I worked overnight at Target. I worked at a daycare, nursing homes. Like it's a little bit of everything, right? So it's to a point of I think that my upbringing, not wanting to be elected, not wanting to have a title and all these different things, I'm just a regular guy. First generation American. My grandmother moved here from Jamaica and sponsored citizenship for my grandfather and my mother. So it's a different mindset where I don't feel oppressed. I just feel like I'm taking, like I said earlier, God's will for my life and the whims of it and just having it go. And I fell into this career path that there are not a lot of people or brothers doing it, but I know that over time we'll be able to talk about that throughout this interview.
Yeah, you're right, and again, that's why I even wanted to do the interview because again, I believe that we need more people in our community getting involved with politics, and I truly think that this is a great side of politics to be on because. And you'll be able to correct me in the interview. I think y'all have a lot more freedom to do things outside of your state senator or your Republican or things of that nature, working with businesses and people in the community. But and we'll dive into that a little bit more here. Now, I know you have the hip hop with your name, but how were you able to tie the hip hop culture from R&B to rap or whatnot? How did that fuel you for your lobbying grind?
Well, it's a mix of both. I actually celebrated 13th anniversary. I want to say March 5th. We put a constitutional amendment on the ballot to change the ballot to allow the Florida student body president of the Florida Student Association to be on the board of governors. And it was issued years ago where we had, in order to make that simple change, we had to put an amendment on the ballot. And when it went up, we had former Congressman, now he was representative at the time, Matt Gaetz, and a Democrat sponsored the bill. It went up, and just seeing that it passed 114 and every voter would have to decide on it, it made me fall in love with the lobbying process. I fell in love with hip hop when I first heard Warren G. Regulators. So it was one of those things to say, you know what, just mixing the two together. But now it kind of fuels me because, like, I make a playlist. I go into Tallahassee. I'll drive to Tallahassee Tuesday to Thursday. I have my Meta Ray bands or whatever. So I play music, but I'm listening to Moneybagg Yo, listening to Kendrick, old school hip hop, whatever it may be. But it kind of fuels me, and it gets to a point where people realize it. So they may catch me joking in a committee meeting or at the bottom of my head or something like that. But it kind of drives me because strategically, as I'm like mapping out on my chessboard on how to pass a law, how to get money from government, or how to put my clients in a better position with government itself or elected officials, I just use that as my motivation. It's kind of like, the baseball players, NBA, NFL, they use music to kind of get them going. But this is my NBA, this is my trap, this is my whatever it is. So this is my dope boy life, if anything, but it's political. So I kind of use the same music and culture to kind of drive the narrative.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. Myself playing football from high school to college, before we get to any game, I got to have the music in my
Yeah,
ears. I don't know what it is about the music. It pumps you up, it gets you ready for war. And, I would imagine you're in the same type of space as you go in there. It's like time to battle, and we got to get it done. And that music gets
yeah,
you in that zone.
exactly, exactly,
Now,
exactly.
now I know myself from doing business over 11 years. There's a lot of ups and downs. Even today, there's still ups and downs. But getting started, it definitely was challenges. So, has there been any failures or flops that have taught you how to win big now?
Yeah, I would say when I first started and branched off on my own, I wanted to help a lot of minority and black-owned businesses get a seat at the table. But I would say I've learned to pick better quality clients. Not to talk bad about anything like that, but that gets to a point of realizing when it comes to the lobbying game, a lot of people don't know it. So I have to educate a client, educate a prospect, and if you have to educate somebody and then try to flip them over to have them pay you, it's kind of tough. So that's a failure flop thing I've kind of realized is that somebody who knows what the lobbying game is and understands what the process is and the impact that this profession has on government, they know what they're looking for. They know what they're going to get. So I would say a failure would be essentially trying to bring people to the table that weren't financially or mentally there or ready to even get a contract from government in the first place, which is a totally different thing. So at least bridling expectations and putting people in a better position to actually make impact is something I've learned. But it's like quality assurance, if anything, or quality control.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. I got to be mindful, even with government contracting, with joint ventures and teaming partners and things of that nature. I've
Mm,
definitely got some bad apples by, me not taking my time and doing my due diligence and making sure that, this was a perfect fit for me. It's kind of like a marriage.
right,
You don't just get
right,
married to anybody. You got to make sure they're the right fit for you. So I definitely understand
exactly,
what you mean by there.
exactly.
We had a question that popped up here. They stated, has GovCon become more or less acceptable with the current administration? Now, I know you're in Florida, so what is your viewpoint out there so far with what's going on? Is GovCon still active, or is it?
It's still active because the government is not the main solution. They have to contract the services out somewhere, one way or another, right? So it's still going to be there, but people are more caught up in the DEI narrative, the new administration. But when you understand politics, whether you're working on the inside or you have a contract, you have to understand the ebbs and flows of if a new administration decides to cut budgets or whatever it is, that your contract could get cut. So it's not a fact of things are being cut or it's not available. You have to really sit back because it's in the first 100 days in this new administration and realizing that a lot of states are going to trickle into what the federal government does as well. It's more the waiting game. So this is more of a 6 to 8 month waiting game to see what the new administration puts in when the new laws come in place because it ends up being a schedule. You have to understand a state fiscal year schedule versus the congressional CRs or whatever it may be. So those budget resolutions on the federal level are different from the state and the local government. So when you understand those timing schedules, you'll kind of realize like, okay, you have to wait for the trickle down effect to happen in one, then the next one implements, and the next one implements. So it could be really a 6 to really 18 month window of adjustments. But from there, it'll be a whole new level playing field of government contract opportunities. To be real,
Man,
I feel.
I wish this would go viral as much as the other information goes viral that scares everybody and puts fear, because I keep telling people, like, I hope you don't think the money's going anywhere. It's just being adjusted to another place, and that's part of business and entrepreneurship. You gotta pivot and follow where the money is, and there's
Yeah,
still
yeah,
problems to be solved.
and if you want to be real, and this is the part where even talking to politicians and being real about it, and kind of where I get pissed off with the people who are talking heads in this space. It's more of a fact of everybody's talking about DEI is getting removed, right? But
Mhm.
let's go. How did DEI get in the first place? Something I haven't seen yet is a George Floyd video of him being choked out, calling for his mom. Right. So realistically, thinking about it like this, Black people, is that if we want a DEI and all these things to continue, kind of in an affirmative action kind of way, that means that more Black people would have to be choked out live and everybody for the world to see.
Mm.
That's the only way that you continue to fund these programs. So that because of these other George Floyds haven't happened, there's going to be a shift. So of course, even when you look at it, they came after CRT, then it's DEI, it's a domino effect, right? Cool. But with CRT, it was more the labeling of every white person is racist and inherently that you're not going to win it over
Mhm.
because you look at it. well, they took CRT out. You saw when Kaepernick took a knee, what was going to happen. So let's not placate the nonsense as if we don't see what's happening, right? So when we take that mindset, it's more saying, okay, cool. Reality here, even Jamal Bryant boycotting Target, which I don't support, I'll share it later, is sorry.
You good.
They're going to take the DEI out unless more black people continue to get killed openly for people to see, right? And that's the part that nobody wants to talk about, is the fact of how do we get here? So you can be mad about them taking the investment out, but they're a private company, and the fact that it's been implemented in government is different, but also for a fact of people have emotions without facts, because when you have the facts of it, it's like, okay, cool, even with DEI, black folks at the bottom of the totem pole on this. So what are we talking about? Who's really losing? But people don't want to take a constructive look to policy and things. They want to take emotions. And that's kind of where, even with Democrats and Republicans, I'm like, can I cuss?
Yeah,
no?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fuck the emotions. Let's talk about the facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you put the facts on it and people take angles to the facts that they want to say, it's like, all right, cool. You have your angle, but how does this impact everyday people, right? And that's the thing people miss, because, sidebar here, not everybody went to college, right? So if you're talking about your number one priority is eliminating student loans, okay, cool. What debt are you taking away from somebody who didn't go to college, right? Medical bills. People don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about the nonsense and like, okay, cool. And then it's like, even for these solutions that we talk about, the government's going to contract somebody out to get a solution. They're going to run a study. They're going to hire somebody to do it. So how do you put yourself in that position to be there? But let me not go down my soliloquy, because I can take the show over.
Nah, man, look, the whole purpose of me even, talking government contracting to the community is, I believe that we should just get involved in the business side. Like, let's generate some revenue, because the money's still going to happen regardless. And I think that we could take that money back to our own community and solve our own problems, to having people beg them to change what they want to do with their own money. But again, we could go all day.
I think the other part, and we'll keep going, is you have to understand government. And the fact of the matter is, I said in my TED talk, for like 200 years, we were legally illiterate, right? So it's the point of, if we're finally getting to a point where we're going to start building black wealth and getting contracts and building it back, we have to understand that this government and how it was shaped. And we can't, people always talk about, we need to create a new government, new political party. That's cool, but you haven't even learned the one that's here. So it's kind of like LeBron James going to play golf now. It's like you have to learn a whole new sport. You dominate basketball. We dominate the emotions, but we don't dominate what we actually need to change. So it's a different thing. But let's keep the interview going before I go on.
You hit one right there, but let's go. So this actually brings in the next question very well. So in simple terms, because a lot of people don't know what lobbying really is, can you explain to us what is lobbying and why should we care about lobbying?
Lobbyists are sports agents for politicians. That's the simplest way to put it. If you look at a lobbyist, you think of Rich Paul. You think of Drew Rosenhaus. You think of somebody who's going to sit here and negotiate policies, because the main thing is the government is a league. The government is NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, right? The teams are the state agencies, the federal agencies, Department of Health, Department of Education, whatever you want it to be, right? So what you want to do is put yourself in a position where you're important enough for a team to get a funded contract or for a law to be changed for you to be on that team, right? The biggest thing is when you don't understand it or look at it in the simple terms of other things that actually relate to us, will be a problem, because a lot of people look at government as, okay, I have to go talk to the elected official, LeBron James, and LeBron James is going to do it. Do you think, like people talk about the $500,000 dinner with Jay-Z, do you think if you paid or met with LeBron James, is he going to give you free throw pointers that you're going to make every free throw for the rest of your life off one conversation? It doesn't happen that way, because LeBron is also getting pulled by his family. Savannah wants him. His kids want him. The Lakers need him. All his brand endorsement deals need him. So he's getting pulled by all these different factors, which is the same thing with elected officials. The elected officials have to worry about the local electeds that also work with them, the environment, healthcare, government, road closures, business, everything. So when you're talking about all these things that you have to do to operate an organization, to operate a business, or operate whatever you're doing, right? It's a lot of different headwinds. And that's where lobbyists comes in, as your sports agent, and say, okay, cool. Are you a first round pick? Are you important enough to get funded by the government? Are you important enough to change the law in the government, right? If you're there, let me go sell you, not to the league. Let me go sell you to the player, right? Let me go sell you this endorsement deal some kind of way so that you can get ingrained and put yourself in the best position. Because even though you're that person, that elected official is getting pulled by all these different silos, they know that when Drew Rosenhaus or Rich Paul calls, they know exactly what they're calling for, right? It's a deal because you're in this space. So, and I talk to people about it all the time. I have people who are in the same fraternity with elected officials or sorority. Oh, I know Senator such and such. I could call him right now. You calling them and me calling them is two different things, right? Not even for the fact that I'm going to get a reply quicker than you, but you're coming from a position where they're going to have to do some research, right? Mm-hmm. I'm educating them before I call them, I'm telling them exactly what's happening and what's what, because I understand their thought process on, okay, what do you need from me to do, right? I need you to call the Commissioner of Education. I need you to call this president of this university or this whatever to line these things up, because this is the impact of something you discussed in committee. And guess what? I have a client that does something that solves this issue for you that you don't even know about yet, right? So it's more the educational prospect to say, okay, cool. I have this kid from Akron, Ohio. I think he'll be the best thing ever. I'll be his agent, right? And it's more of a fact of, if you even go back to the stories, and I guess to get to the legal and legal parts of lobbying, it's the person that helped set up that conversation for LeBron to get the Hummer. Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? So as you go back, it's like, you know what? I'm the one who found the talent. Here's what it is. Let's set up the deal. So as everything's kind of going, it's more the educational aspect of, you know what, before NIL, here's the gray area of the law. Here's the law. Here's how we operate. And here's how I present you in the best position. So that's a short version, or at least a relatable version of what a lobbyist does.
I actually think you gave a great kind of like right there to really get the audience to understand, you know, how this whole lobbying thing works in our ecosystem right now. Now, I want to ask you this because, you know, I often hear a lot of individuals say, you know, email your senator, go talk to your representatives at their office to express your concerns. I think you should do that as well, but should people know who their local lobbyist is? Like, would that play an important factor in knowing who the lobbyist is, or is that mainly just for businesses?
It's mainly for business. If you know who your lobbyist is, I mean, it depends on what your interests are, right? It depends on what you need. But emailing your elected officials is not bad, but it's not just them. It's like, I say, it's like talking to a celebrity, right? You got to put them in the same echelon in some aspect. So you don't want to talk to them. You want to talk to their staff. Who's their top staffer that they speak with every night, right? When I ran congressional campaigns, I was talking to my member and the chief of staff till 1, 2 in the morning, right? We had to coordinate. So there is a point of the person who's going to talk to that member when you're not around. It's more important to understand who is the stage manager, right? Who is a secretary, who is a whatever, for whatever relatable career, at least, that's going to get that person's attention and at least know that your message got delivered. Because the other part of it is you can say your piece, because it's also that gadfly piece of, okay, they're always going to say something, right? But make sure you know what you're talking about and have a solution to what you're reaching out for. Because that's another thing. It's like, you have to remember, these are elected officials. They weren't born into this. So they weren't born geniuses, right? They were born into a position to say, you know what? I feel important enough to go get elected. And when I get elected, guess what? I have to learn more than what I thought I knew, right? On top of negotiating policy and relationships. So a part of it is educating them. Don't assume that they don't know, but don't assume that they do know, right? Because there's a point of saying, all right, cool, I've heard about this, I haven't had time. They're getting pulled from everywhere. So it's a point of saying, okay, cool, let's put it all in together and just get some direct contact with them so they can at least know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, definitely. Same thing with government contracting. You know, I always say you can't approach the thing and you don't know what you want. You know, you got to be very specific about it, as well as I tell them all the time, the assistant is more valuable than the actual CEO. Like, the assistant knows everything about the CEO, what they're doing every day, who they talking to, the food that they like, the things that they like to listen to. Like, to get inside of there and have that relationship with those individuals, that's what gets you in the room.
Yeah. It's all people. I mean, that's what the customer service part has helped me in government. Is like, it's understanding people. I know that, you know, they're busy. I'm popping in when you have 10 people in your office. I'm gonna come back, but it's more understanding. Like, you know what? I don't need the stress. I just need 2 minutes. Because the other part of it is you don't get 30 minutes sometimes. You get 2 minutes to really explain your point. So how can you at least get the elevator pitch and get straight to the point of what people care about and make sure that the right person care about your issue, which is a whole other part of the process. But let me not take the interview over. I'm listening.
You good. You good. Hey, people need to hear this stuff. Now, I know you've been able to lobby for millions with these businesses. Can you give us an example of what a day-to-day life looks like for a lobbyist?
Well, me, I'm a little different. I'm a solo practitioner. I have business partnerships with other organizations where, if opportunity is right, we'll work together. But typically, my day to day is, if I'm in Tallahassee, I'm sitting in committees. Honestly, it's not glitz and glamour work, right? It's really sitting down, listening, and understanding process. So my day, for the most part, I would say, to your question, it's different. To your question, it's different based on the type of lobbyist and the type of stuff they're working on, right?
Gotcha.
If you're an educational lobbyist, you're working on policy all day, you can have a day where you're just in committee, listening to bills, you're reading through bills, things like that. I mainly handle appropriations, which end up being contracts in some aspect, right? So my day would be going through some of the budget spreadsheets now to say, okay, what's the priority that the Florida House and Florida Senate have prioritized for the 2025, 2026 year? At the same time, finding prospects is be like, okay, which government or which technology or company out there will be impacted by this the most that currently isn't at the table, right? And then for me, from an appropriation standpoint, is selling what I call the return on investment to the taxpayer through the process. So it not to sidestep the question, it really depends on where you are in the process. Like right now, we're in week 3 of Florida's legislative process. So it's nothing really happening until the next 2 weeks when the budget allocations come out. So to me, it's more seeing at least what the allocations are, what potential opportunities are from these budget silos, and then kind of going from there. So it's it fluctuates state to state, and even legislature to legislature, or even at the DC level. Everybody's work is different depending on what industry you're actually in, to be honest.
Hey, well, that's actually something new to me. Here in DC, we got lobbyist row, what we call it, but I never thought about, certain lobbyists for certain industries or niches, categories that you need to focus on.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like I do education, I also do energy, right? There's a lot of synergy there because of AI. You need, for AI and ChatGPT to work, you need the energy sector, right? But it's also a fact of how do we create the workforce development and also make sure that the kids that are here, the school to prison pipeline, whatever, right? But then there's also a fact of, even when you talk energy, you're talking the environment, right? However, for someone who's worked 30 years in the environmental issues, I can't come in as a lobbyist and say I'm a super expert on the environmental issues if somebody understands the TMDLs, which is the total daily that comes out, like the water, phosphorus, the fertilizers, all the different nutrient requirements that are required there. Mm-hmm. Everybody has their own thing. So when you get down to healthcare, it comes down to, in some states, to have what they call a certificate of need, which is the ability for hospitals and nursing homes to increase their beds, right? But that whole regulation and legislation is probably the lobbyists that are working there. They understand it better than someone who's just coming in from the educational sector somewhere else. So it's more niches down, because as new technologies come in, some things can expand, but it is a point of you want an expert in the field. You just don't want someone who's just whatever. My thing with me is I'm more of not a jack of all trades, because I've worked in different silos, but I realize that my biggest thing is helping nonprofits do their job better. So I focus on the appropriations, which is essentially government contracting, because the appropriations, and we'll get into it, the appropriations and the grant process are two different things, or the contracting process are two different things. Because in one aspect, you're applying for a contract that's out there. You say, hey, here's a grant, they want to fund and we can apply. My job, I'm actually getting you a contract that nobody else is applying to besides you. So you're actually getting an allocation of money directly to you for your work, and you're not competing against anybody else. So that's totally different from you going to compete for a contract. My job is to say, yeah, government, contract this person. Hey, senator, representative, this is what it is. Here's a benefit to the taxpayers. Here's what the state's currently not doing. Here's how we enhance what we're doing through this program, and go ahead and get you a direct contract. So that it's essentially not forces, but it tells that state agency or that federal agency, you have to give this person or this organization $1 million because this is what we felt was the right thing to do.
Come on now. Hey, I hope y'all are seeing how important this lobbyist industry is to the whole ecosystem. And hopefully, again, either you get involved or you start connecting with lobbyists. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, share this live feed out with 3 other entrepreneurs and business owners that you know need to find out the truth behind lobbying. Now, as I said, the truth behind lobbying, tell me, what is one of the biggest myths that you've heard when it comes to lobbying?
That everything's pay to play. That people, the lobbyists are funneling money back, and it's a 2-pronged approach, right? And one aspect, half the people who always say that never ran a campaign, right? Mm-hmm. Yard signs, you know how much a yard sign costs? For 500 yard signs, it may be $800, right? And that's not even with the stakes, the aluminum stakes to put in them. You talking about a billboard ad may run you $3,000 or $4,000 by itself, right? Mm-hmm. Just one. You're talking about all kind of the palm cards that people mail. It could be $1,200 depending on where you get the print from, the amount of colors that you get. There are a lot of things that get into it because there's a psychology of getting someone to go vote for you, right? I tell somebody, like, I do the lobbying piece, but I've done campaigns on the congressional level and local level. You have to have a different kind of psychology to have somebody argue with their family, get up out of their bed, and then go down to the precinct and go vote for you, right? So when I look at it, I'm a Tom Brady, I'm a Michael Jordan, I'm a LeBron James in my field because the psychological input of the design, the color schemes, all these different things, but all that comes to a point of getting paid, right? Mm-hmm. There's a point of the lobby corps in different states and different regions will say, you know what, cool, we have a member, Democrat or Republican, who's good for business, good for the nonprofits, good for our community, right? When that member ends up calling like, hey, I voted for you, I supported you, I helped you, your clients get over $5 million in the budget. Can I get $1,000? Can I get $2,500 for my re-election campaign, right? Mm-hmm. Is it bad business to go support them because they've helped your business and helped your community? No, right? The issue ends up being that narrative of, oh, it's pay to play. I'm running grassroots campaigns, right? Because that's really the mix. Oh, it's grassroots. Grassroots don't pay. Because go ask 10 of your homies right now. Everybody in the chat, go ask 10 of your homies to give you $250 right now, and see how long. Not only you get people to promise it, but see how long they actually go to pay, right? So imagine that you have the low dollars, $5, $10, $150, right? But then that's not enough to pay for what you need to get your message out because you need to get reelected and people need to know what you've done outside of the newspaper clippings. Because guess what? A lot of people not reading the news. They're not watching the news. So unless you're putting your own stuff out there, how are you going to do it, right? Social media is one thing, but not everybody's Jasmine Crockett. Not everybody's going to go viral. So it's a point of there isn't a pay to play system. It's a pay to support, right? Are you going to support me to stay in as your elected person? What ends up happening is maybe there are different factions who are like, hey, you know what? No, we need this person out. Democrat, Republican, could be partisan. It could be you voted wrong on a bill. So the biggest misconception is that it's just pay to play. To me, it's more process and relationships. People who understand the process, you'll have these elected officials who just want to be social media giants, right? They're not doing this to actually impact the community. They're doing it just to drive up their followers. So understanding that, there may be some people who are like, listen, I'm not supporting that person coming back in this process because they're not beneficial, right? But it could be your perspective of beneficial to Republicans, Democrats, white folks, black folks, Hispanics, whatever. Everybody has their own needs. So that's one myth I would say, but let me not keep going on that path.
No, it's great. It's great to share this information. Again, it's probably a lot of it's new to me as well as I'm listening. So I appreciate it. Now, let me ask you this. Can you tell us about one of your instances that you've done a large deal? Like what was the dollar amount to that deal? If you could share that with us, and like what was the experience through that process?
I would say it wasn't a single. I think one of my best solo years, about 2022, I got like $1.8 million solo for like 10 different projects. And it ranged between the Omega Lamplighters, which is a youth program. Appreciate that. There was the Omega Lamplighters, which is a youth program under Omega Psi Phi fraternity. We got our first allocation there. I have one allocation for a suicide prevention program, another one for a scholarship for low-income college students, another one for elderly for youth students to essentially teach old people to stop being scammed online so they can understand. Because during the pandemic, everybody was scamming the old folks, right? So they end up being a different mix there. Also, some money for people that were coming out of prison so that they could transition back into life well. So at least the workforce development part was there. So to me, it was more getting out of the narrative of DeSantis and the nonsense, right? And actually, how do you take slices of this apple and like get something for your community, right? Because the way I looked at it is those kids, those mothers, those fathers, whatever it is, at least through the organizations that are doing great work, how do you at least, give them something so they can keep doing what they're doing and make a better impact? So I would say that was one of my biggest ones.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this: Are there good and bad lobbyists?
It depends on your perspective.
Got you. I see what you're coming from. Depending on what your morals or what you feel there's a need of change or something of that nature, you may see that this lobbyist is a bad person because they don't want to go down the route that you want to go down.
I mean, I would say they're good lobbyists. They're good and bad. They're good lobbyists that I've called out for not hiring black folks, right? Like, why don't you have any black people on your team? You're a good guy, but I would end up labeling as them they were a bad guy because I question their integrity, right? Mm-hmm. But it's perspective. At the same time, it's like people who may be tricking off on their families and bringing their wife and children. Like, is that a good or a bad lobbyist, right? It's perspective. Are you doing stuff? Are you like tearing down your community? Are you only doing it for, profiting your own self and at the detriment of black people or whatever? It's like, it's all perspective. But at the end of the day, it's like everybody has a job to do, right? And it's just the fact of if you're not fighting for what you may feel is right is one thing, but half the people, they're in a fight with a lost cause because they have no direction.
Gotcha.
So it's like, it's one of those things that it's all perspective, but at the end of the day, it's like everybody has a job to do in this lobbying world. And our job is not only to satisfy the clients, but also to make change and make impact. And I think that's the biggest thing. So good or bad is all perspective.
Yep. I definitely understand what you're saying there. Now, through my experience with working with these government contractors, these businesses, when trying to get into these bigger agencies like the DOD, and I know a lot of stuff is being transitioned now over to the GSA, does lobbying help open those doors for these business owners that can't get through the door at this moment?
Yeah, it does. Relationships and insight help. And it helps you at least understand how to put yourself in a good position, because even when you understand the funding cycles of the fiscal years of government versus everybody else's fiscal year, it puts you in a different perspective. The issue I would have is for small businesses, and especially, and I'll be real with you. Like you talked about, what was the question earlier? Failures and flops. Mm-hmm. That quality assurance of clientele. For my black folks on this stream, I'll tell you this respectfully. I'm gonna be all the way real with you. Stop expecting shit for free, especially when you want a federal contract. I'll tell you this. I'm not going to name names, but if they're on here, they know who they are. But it's a point of, I was talking to an organization to get a meeting with someone that's over actually the Department of Defense that's appointed by the president, the former president. Now, I had the connections to call the vice president's office and say, hey, I need you to help set up this meeting, right? But in that conversation, the part that kind of struck me the worst was the person saying, you know what? Oh, well, I don't want to pay for this because everybody else is paying $100,000 just for the meeting, right? I don't want to pay for it. I was hoping to have an organic, authentic meeting that, we could just come in and bring the players together and just have a conversation about this and how we'll be the best person. I was like, bro, the part that you're not understanding is this is a secretary of a whole agency, federal agency. And I have to bring in at least 4 other people that handle exactly what the hell you're talking about, because I've done my research and understand who needs to be in this conversation that you're pitching to, right? Mm-hmm. That's not free.
Nope.
There's nothing free in that, because you're not going to your barber. You're not going to any beautician, anybody in any other field, a restaurant. You're not saying, hey, cook me this jerk pork or this jerk chicken and oxtails and rice and peas, right? And then I'm going to pay you after I shit it out, right? Not even eat it. I'm gonna digest it after cause it doesn't. They're gonna cuss you out in a Jamaican restaurant, and that's the disrespect that a lot of black folks come into the government contract or the government space with. Is like, oh, I'm not seeing the results immediately, so there's nothing guaranteed in this. That's the other part. There's nothing guaranteed in politics. Your elected official could die. They could get impeached. You could be on the wrong side of the budget because if there's a budget deficit, hurricane hits, war, whatever. If they prioritize money elsewhere, out of education into the Department of Defense or vice versa, any other area, you best believe like DEI's getting cut, your contract getting cut too, right? Yep. So you have to be prepared to understand nothing's guaranteed, but the best thing you can do is guess what? Like I said earlier, I know this kid in Akron who's waking up at 4 a.m, shooting 100 free throws, right? He's putting in the work every day. I want to help put him in the best position because guess what? He's at St. Vincent St. Mary's. They want him to go to Oak Hill, but I want to keep him here for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. When you have a prospect of something that you can sell to government and you can build on, that's what kind of builds that relationship. Like, you know what? There's something there that we need to hold on to. But when you get in a situation where you have nothing to sell to government, right? You have nothing that benefits them. You just want a contract. That's when it's a point of like, okay, you have nobody that can actually sell you, right? Mm-hmm. The lobbyist is selling you for a reason. The sports agent is selling you to the teams for a reason because they're telling basically like, listen, you don't understand what's out here. We're trying to help you understand that this can be run more efficient. And it's not for a fact of doing it free. It's a fact of this is going to benefit everybody. So there's value there. There's added value in that strength training coach. There's added value in that free throw coach. There's added value in all the things you want to do to instill in your kids, right? To be the next best athlete. It's the same thing in politics. You have to pay someone. You have to value someone who's going to put you in like, you know what? Yes, I need you to do this one pager and explain exactly what you're doing. I need you to give me a breakdown of how much it costs to do your program. How many kids are you impacting and what it costs you to run your program day to day? Because I have to take this information and understand government and say, you know what? After the Kobe era, somebody got to take over. Yep. So after this era, how can I help put you in a position to say, you know what? This is what's happening. And we're about to change off from Biden to Trump. Guess what? I got something that's going to work for this narrative. Because the other part of it is, it's not just selling the Democrats, right? That's another part where you can't just sell to black folks. You can't just sell to Democrats. My thing with customer service is when I was a bag boy, I understood that nobody wants the eggs and bread with the cereal, right? Nobody wants the eggs and bread with the apples and the oranges, right? Because something's going to break. Yep. There's certain principles that people have they're not going to break on. But I need to understand, as your lobbyist, what are the triggers somebody's going to have? Case in point, I have a client for Holocaust survivors. When I'm going to the Jewish members of the legislature, I'm talking about the Holocaust, the multiculturalism, the bipartisan of them, is it like all that put together to get to a point, right? To say, you know what? These are things that you care about because your grandfather was a Holocaust survivor, right? So, of course, if I'm representing it, if I'm pulling those heartstrings, it's like, you know what? Damn, okay, cool. I can support this. So a part of your agent, your lobbyist is saying, okay, cool. This isn't just a kid that came out of Akron out of nowhere. He's been putting in the work. Here's what they've been doing. Here are the things that make it make sense, right? All-American. McDonald's All-American. They could go to Ohio State. So when you talk about that, he was a dual athlete, played football too. Yeah, all these different things kind of play a role in like, you know what, damn, why haven't we heard of you before, right? Why haven't we partnered with you? We need to find a way to make it done. But my job is to say, okay, let me cater that conversation for the Clippers. Let me cater that conversation for the Knicks, the Yankees, the Mets, the Marlins, whoever it is, so that I can understand exactly what they need and put you in the best position to get drafted, if that makes sense.
Well, I want to let you good. You good at the way you talking and making these analogies to make it make sense. Like, you making it make sense to me, and I'm pretty sure you making it make sense to everybody else in the community as well, the way that you breaking this thing down. I see why you was the youngest lobbyist in Florida, black lobbyist in Florida at 24 right there, man. Now, let me ask you this. You were talking about as far as, you know, you got to pay for this stuff. So when it comes to paying, do lobbyists come up with the price, or is it based off the project? Is it a flat rate? How can our audience prepare themselves and start to put that money aside to be able to pay for a lobbyist?
It depends on what you need and what firm you go to, right? Some of my clients can't afford a $10,000 retainer, right? Some of them can only afford $2,500 or $5,000. But at the same time, it's a fact of the value that's being given. And also, here's the other thing. You get a contract, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. Legally, we can't work on a contingency fee, right? So that means that most people in sales, if you put it in a sales process, say, you know what, let's go to the door. We're going to sell these vacuums. You get 20% of each sale off the vacuum, right? Lobbying legally in 50 states, we can't operate that way. A contingency, right? We have to operate like a barber, like a restaurant, where we get paid for the value and the service that we give, right? But that value and service depends. I have some clients that in the tech sector, they know I'm a lobbyist, but they know I also do e-commerce and sales, right? So a part of that is, okay, cool. We don't want to pay you to lobby for us. We want market intelligence. We want to understand how to sell better. Okay, cool. I'm not going to hit you with a $5,000 price tag if I realize it's only a $2,500 job, right? Mm-hmm. So it breaks it in there. But if it's to a point of saying, you know what, we need some money, we need an allocation, we need this, it all depends on, the organization. However, I'll put it this way. There are local governments out there, they're only paying like $3,000 a month, right? $3,300 based on the tax dollars, right? So they can't go paying tens of 100,000. But then there's some county governments throughout the country or assemblies that'll pay maybe $200,000 or $300,000 a year for a lobbyist, right? And it's relationships. Because my thing is, and this is a true story, if my mother is the chief of staff to the president and I'm working at a lobbying firm, you best believe everybody in the world is going to come hire me because they want that access, right? And that's a true story that's happening right now. And it's not a knock on anything. It's a fact of this is the way of the world. Mm-hmm. You're paying for access. You're not paying for any result, to be honest, because nothing's guaranteed. You're paying for access to have a conversation, for have people working for you. Because really what you're doing is having the lawyers and the elected officials and everybody else kind of line things up for you, but you have to be a part of this conversation. And the biggest thing with Black folks as a community is that we may want to get the SBA loans, the contracts, but we're not trying to learn the process on how this whole thing actually goes down. So that is the biggest hindrance, I would say, especially when we're talking about, reinvesting and things of that nature, because we want to have those contracts, but we have to learn how the government works first. And to me, that's the biggest hindrance.
Yeah, you actually, again, I'm learning as I'm interviewing you here. I didn't even think about your local and state government needing lobbyists as well, because I'm pretty sure they need your help getting federal funds.
Yeah. See, what happens is, like Baltimore, the bridge in Baltimore fell down, the ship hit it. Who do you think working on that, right? Who do you think is gonna, like, the city of Baltimore, the county, those lobbyists, even the federal? They have to go to Capitol Hill, even though it's right down the street, 45 minutes down. Okay, cool. We got to go to D.C., but we have to talk about the economic impact, the people that are displaced from these jobs, the jobs that we're going to create from this investment, and also say, you know what, this may cost $1 trillion to rebuild, but here's the benefit of it, right? Mm-hmm. That's the job of a lobbyist, to help educate those folks, because of that when it's happening, again, the elected officials are getting pulled from all over, right? So that when they see that lobbyist, when they see that person, that member is going to automatically know, like, hey, what's the update on the bridge? How are we with this? And also addressing all these different things. So a lobbyist essentially is, again, the agent, but I'm bringing all the players to the table, because I understand that I need to bring the shipping company in. I need to bring the unions in. I need to bring the elected officials in. I need to bring all these people in, and also understand a lot of these motherfuckers that may not get along. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to want something for them. If I'm representing the county, the city, whatever, who's going to hold the bag, right? Because at the end of the day, it's really a conversation of being in the room to say, who's going to hold the bag for this at the end of the day? I'm taking 2%. You take 5%. I'm taking 20%. You take 20% because we gave you the shit for 30 years and you ain't pay shit, right? And these are the real conversations that happen behind closed doors, so that when you end up getting these talking points and the elected officials say, hey, we've got $1 billion for this bridge, you don't know what it takes to get them $1 billion. You don't know how much the local government has said, you know what? We didn't do shit. We didn't control the ship. We've been telling y'all we want to regulate the ships and the bridge. Y'all didn't want us to do it. So why should we pay anything for this? Right? That's not a real conversation, but this is the reality. It's not just Baltimore. It happens all over the country. When we had in Florida beach renourishment, we have very unique sand here. When we're having to bring the Army Corps engineers and bring the sand in and do things with the Everglades and different things, a lot of these conversations are happening. Even now, there are lawsuits, local lawsuits and lobbyists between Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida about water. You wouldn't even think that the water between all these places are interconnected. You drive over the bridges, the estuaries, they're all interconnected, but there's a lot of things that the local governments, state governments, and county governments end up dealing with. And guess what? When they have to solve it, guess what they got to do? They got to contract somebody. Contract some engineers to go look at the shit. Contract some surveyors. Contract somebody else, bid it out, and go do it. So a part of it is, That's what I'm saying. You got to understand government. Everybody want a DEI, Black Lives Matter, Target, boycott Target. Fuck that. There's real shit happening every day that nobody cares about or talks about. Because guess what? There's a government contract for it, but we want to talk about boycotting Target. But guess what? I'm gonna say this. I was gonna save it for later. I worked overnight at Target. When I'm in the Capitol, when I'm in the building, I'm not thinking about my homies who got it. I'm thinking about the old ladies who are working at Target because their daughters maybe has been strung out on crack, right? So they're working a second job, a third job to take care of their grandbabies. So when you go to boycott Target, that sounds good, but I'm thinking about the mothers that's working overnight from 10 to 7 in the morning to support their grandbabies. Fuck what we talking about, right? And if we're not going to take that money to the black businesses, we boycotting for bullshit. So I'm taking my perspective on all of this. My wife boycotting Target. I'm like, listen, they got the best t-shirt section. Walmart, he kissed my ass. I'm still going, right? Because I know when I go into a black community, the black kids are working there. Their hours are going to get fucking cut.
Yep.
Because the people not coming in there. Where are we at with the reality of this shit? Did Jamal Bryant go look at the amount of black people that Target hired? Yes, they boycotted the shit after George Floyd got choked out. Yes. But guess what? You can't tell me that these women are going to go to Walmart and Costco to buy some fucking clothes now. It ain't happening.
Nope.
So let's be real. I'm sorry. Sorry for cussing. Let's keep it going.
No. Look, hey, you hitting things on the money. Don't hold back at all. Now, let me ask you this: as a regular government contracting person, again, I'm almost for certain that majority of my audience, this is going to be their first time hearing about lobbying, and you're doing a hell of a job of explaining and breaking it down to us. But like, how do they go about finding the lobbyists for them? Is this a Google search, or like, what should they be doing?
See, the thing is, it's trade secrets. The lobbying, as I learned from some of my mentors, lobbying was not a broadcast business like that. Yep. I'll say it like this, and I realize this is my business. If you know what a lobbyist is, you're gonna go find one. You're not Googling it, right? Because you know what a Nike is, right? You're not Googling no Nike. If they come out with a new Air Max colorway, you're not Googling Nike to find out exactly what is Nike? What is Adidas? What is Reebok? You know what they are, right? People who know what a lobbyist are, they're not going to Google it. They're going to call a lawyer. They're going to call an accountant. Hey, do you know a lobbyist? I know an elected official who's going to refer me to somebody, right? What happens is, most times for black businesses, it's not until they're in a situation that they need a lobbyist, right? And even my first client, respectfully, they were getting a contract. They were subcontracted through a main contract, through a grant, right? It wasn't until they got their money cut off that they're like, hey, we need a lobbyist. And even then it was, hey, I don't know what a lobbyist does. I heard of them. Can you help me? The result of that, check this out. The result of that, they lost a contract getting $40,000 a year. I was able to get them $150,000 a year for 7 years as a replacement because they needed a lobbyist, right? So it's a part of, yes, I can be subcontracting them to somebody, or I can go get my own pot of money. And it got to a point of saying, you know what, Phil, we actually got everything we need. We don't need a lobbyist anymore. And that's kind of the turnover of the business, because you're not going to need a lobbyist forever. Like a pair of shoes is going to wear out after a while. Like, you only need them 2 or 3 years. Cool. All right, cool. We good now, right? Because it's a part of, which is different from government contracting in essence, right? You don't need to be dependent on government. What a lobbyist is doing, I'm not trying to set up a long-term 10, 15-year investment for the state or the federal government. What I'm trying to do is say, hey, we have a short-term goal to get from point A to point B. We have 5 years to do it. This is the issue. We'll focus on school to prison pipeline. Guess what? My kids have a 99% graduation rate. The rest of them going to Army or trade school. Guess what? They're in every program, the city, county, and we're expanding. We're touching over 1,500 kids just in our program alone. And guess what? It only costs them $250 for the parents to be in the program. And if the Department of Juvenile Justice caught these kids, it will cost them $1,000 per child to put this child through mental health, substance abuse training, and all the rest of it is to put this child right on the back path, right? So what I'm telling you is, I'm saving you $750 per person by investing in my program, right? That is essentially what happens. But it gets to a point of saying, all right, cool, this isn't a 15-year deal. This could be a 5-year deal. Right. This could be a 3-year deal, right? But it's to a point of, how do we at least get to a point of saying, okay, this is my main point. We're not looking for an investor. We're looking for a partner. The federal government is looking to partner with somebody. And in that partnership, we're going to address some goals because as a state and federal government, we have goals to address literacy rates. We have goals to address HIV. We have goals to address environmental issues, right? We have goals to address brownfields. How does your organization help us get from point A to point E? Not even B.
Point E.
To point E. Because that's a part of because this is a bigger picture of where we have to operate as a government. So I don't need you to solve it all. I need you to take a little bit. How can you take care of it? Because in this little bit of silo, you may be saving 300 or 400 kids, but 300 or 400 kids is a lot of damn souls that you're saving.
Yeah.
So how do you put yourself in the best position? So if you're looking for a lobbyist, even the Omega Lamplighters, that group is because two things. One, my homie's line brother basically runs the organization, and my wife is also AKA, and she runs a female organization, or used to run the Pros of Perfection, the young ladies group. I'm at a wedding. He came to me like, hey, bro, I see you getting money for all these orgs. I just want a little bit. I said, bro, I got you anytime you need it. The second that you realize you are ready as an organization to get a lobbyist and get a contract from the government, call me. I will represent you pro bono because guess what? I'm not taking those parents' money. It costs these parents $250 to put their kids in. Why should I sit here and be like, yeah, you need to pay me $3,000? It's coming directly that's programming money. That's programming money you can put in these streets, stop the literacy rate, right? So a part of it is when you know you need a lobbyist, you're not going to Google. You're going to the people that you trust to get you the information. And that's another thing is, like a sports agent, you can look up Rich Paul, Drew Rosenhaus. We know who they are, right? This isn't an industry that is overly broadcasted, but the people who know, they know who the fuck to call.
Yeah. You know the players.
Yeah, exactly.
And does every state have like the players of lobbyists in the state, or is it like an industry type thing? Everyone has their own thing. One of the top lobbyists here, my guy Ron Book. I don't like to name drop other people. He's one of the top guys out there. He's been doing this since '77. Former chief of staff to former Governor Bob Graham. Been 70. It's funny. We saw each other last week with a group of young men from Kappa League, and we have a running thing. I'm a Raiders fan. He's a Dolphins fan. And we just have a running thing. So I said, hey, I heard Tariq Hill leaving. He cussed me out in front of the kids. But we have a good relationship because from that conversation, he told them, like, listen, I've represented the Miami Dolphins since 1982. And he's instilling in them, like, damn, since these kids were born in 2000. So think about the impact of, you've been through probably 2 or 3 owners of the Dolphins, but you've had that impact in that contract. So some people, like the bigger organizations, of course, they're going to have a 10-year deal with somebody, right? Like a Ron Book. But they understand the power of saying, you know what? If we have somebody like this, he understands the process. He's a historian on the process, and he's always put us in a good position. Mm-hmm. That's what it's about, right? So at the end of the day, each state ends up having their guy. You have one in Mississippi. You have one in Alabama. The issue is, are you a Republican or Democrat, right? That ends up being, if you're a Democrat in Alabama, that's cool. You ain't doing nothing. Mississippi too, right? Yeah. But in more states, it depends. So there are the power players to basically say, all right, cool. But the thing is, the relationships are different. I could have a contract in Florida, have somebody in Mississippi who I could refer a business to, but at the same time, their relationships, their process, how they govern is different. So it could be a different set of regulations. So the biggest thing is understanding who the players are, but also realizing that I'll say this, there are 1,700 lobbyists in the state of Florida. There are only 60 of us that are black. 60. So when you think about it, there are 23 million people in the state of Florida. We are the 0.0001 of the state that actually knows how government operates. And it's not something I just nerdy. It's like I tell the people in the process. There are less than 100 of us. We have a lunch every month or so, but it's like we have to realize we are the lifeblood of this shit. Mm-hmm. Because everybody else complains, they want to find the solutions. We can find a solution within a day. We can not even that long. It could be an hour, because a lot of it is ingrained knowledge. And honestly, I'll say it like this: I've done this 15 years now. LeBron's done this 21 years, 22 years. Mm-hmm. There shouldn't be a point where you listen to a LeBron James interview and he can't go down every play all the way through. It's the same way with government. I should be able to say, you know what, I hear what you're saying, but this is exactly why it is, because in the 80s this happened, in the 90s this happened, 2000s, and this is the entire reason why this is here right now, right? There has to be some kind of knowledge base that you're hiring
to get there. That's why you can't just Google it. Because anybody who's saying, oh, yeah, I'm the top lobbyist, guess what? This is selfless work. A lot of us will get credit. They'll get in the headlines for some news, right? But if I go get $1 million for an organization, it's not for me. The elected official, the senator, the representative take all the credit for it, and the organization gets the money. The most I do is get to take the picture or maybe be in the picture. There's money. I've gotten money for organizations that people don't even know I got the money for them until they see it online. I post about it. So, what do you mean? I didn't know you were behind this. Yeah, I'm behind this. Who else you thought was doing it? Right? So it's a part of people don't know what they don't know, but there is a point of being involved. I mean, that's my main thing.
Definitely, again, guys, make sure you're hitting the like button, subscribe button, share this live feed out. Make sure you're following Brother Singleton on social media, Hip Hop Lobbyist. Now, I want to transition a little bit here because you mentioned the numbers of black lobbyists in Florida and things of that nature. I know it's just like this at every state. So I want to dive down into the other side of the house. How can somebody get involved with becoming a lobbyist? Where do they start?
I would say, honestly, people take different paths, right? I was fired from my day job in college. I took an unpaid internship. I started here. I know some people that were lawyers. They became a legislative aide. Maybe they were an intern, and they took different paths. I would say, honestly, my professional opinion, 15 years in, find something you're passionate about, learn up on it, read up on it, and then find out exactly how to make changes to that, right? Because even when I did my TED Talk, I think my hardest part of ending that was you don't want to tell everybody, oh, go be a lobbyist, right? The issue is the ignorance. People don't understand process. People don't understand statutes. People don't understand how the layers of government actually operate, right? There's a part of learning that before you can even teach anybody and go do anything, right? And that to me is the biggest plus and minus. You can have relationships, aides to elected officials, whatever, but it's process, right? Because again, if you go tell an elected official or somebody you know, like, hey, I'm interested in becoming a lobbyist. All right, cool. The first thing I'm gonna tell you is you need to research. You need to have relationships, but research first. And the research part is how the understanding. Hold on. Understanding the impact of shall, must, and may, right? Because when you're in statute, when you're writing law, shall means the government has to. May means they have discretion. Must mean this is it, right? So there's a part of that research that tells you understanding exactly what you're reading, understanding the impact of what you're reading, right? And then understanding the impact of the statutes that'll have impact. Because I say it that way because even if you're going for appropriations or contracts or grants, whatever, it's all based back to the statute, right? So if you have a contract that says, you know what, cool, check this out. This is the reality of the shit. Damn, thank you, right? If they say no contract can have DEI or CRT in it for any organization, right? Okay, cool. You have this contract. Guess what? On your website, it says DEI, CRT on it. Contract canceled. Because in the policy, in the statute, they put it in there, but you didn't know the statute changed, so you never updated your damn website, right? Now you lose the contract because you're not up to date to what the law is saying. It's as simple as what it is, because as crazy as it is, 1822, one of the first laws I read when I did my TED Talk was, on many times slaves run away and lie hid, lurking in swamps, woods, and other obscure places, killing hogs and committing other injuries to the inhabitants of this territory. That was Florida's first fugitive slave law, 1822. We didn't become a state till 1827, right? However, the bigger issue as I read that was like, damn, how do they know these niggas be killing hogs and hiding in the woods, right? Because it's not a poem, as poetic as it sounded. It was the law. So to me, that tells me when 2017, 2018, when I'm prepping this, the law can change anytime. So if they start hiding in barns, in woods, did you know that every 30 days you had to renew your gun permit if you were a black person in the state of Florida, right? During slavery. Because guess what? They were afraid of people. So it's like until you know the law changed. That's why I said earlier, we were legally illiterate. We couldn't read and they changed the law. So we didn't even know what the law said. Ooh. But now 400 years later, we're trying to get a contract. We still don't know what the law says. And we're trying to get a contract. But you're trying to get a contract on DEI, on CRT. And guess what? They just put in the damn statutes. Okay, no contracts in the state of Florida or federal government have DEI on it. So guess what? You got to research if you want to be a part of this process first. You got to understand how the statutes work. You got to understand how to read the laws, interpret it so that you can understand how to make an impact.
Hey, I think that may look. I was going to ask what is the biggest skill set that's needed, but I believe you just shared. You need to be able to go back and research and read and understand, the whole environment from law to how things are operating in order to really understand the industry.
This is why, and I'm not shading nobody. This is why I just don't buy the poverty pimping politics that a lot of people put out there, because there's so much knowledge base. I would say this: there's so much drama in this process. It could be a housewife show. It can honestly, and it would get people involved. Be like, yeah, I'm going to go vote for this nigga because he's real, right? Versus you have some reality star running for government. They don't know nothing about policy. Right, that's the part that says, you know what, damn, like if there's a connection there that says, you know what, damn, they killed his bill that would have put lactate or changing stations every bathroom for women in the country. Damn, hell yeah, I'm gonna vote for her. It's a different mindset because we're not involved, but I don't produce TV shows either, so I guess it's not. It wouldn't draw people's attention.
Let me ask you this: How long do you think it took you when you got started in the lobbying industry to really know your shit?
I'll say about 2.5 years.
Did you dive in reading, or how'd you go about the process?
It was that. It was because listen, I got fired after Kanye dropped 808s and Heartbreak, and I stopped listening to Kanye honestly because of his old recent spats, right? But my mindset was grind. I don't come from a silver spoon family, man. I had to go get it. So to me, it was okay. They had a section in the bill drafting. How do you write laws? It was a blue book. Let me read through this shit. Let me go find. I interned in the Democratic office in a Republican legislature, realizing that freshman members who I interned with were at the bottom. Freshman in high school bottom, freshman in college bottom. Shit, elected officials gonna be different. Fuck that. No. So I'm a grind and I'm a hustle. I'm a learn. And I realized that shit, being valuable is being able to find shit that people don't realize. Because I also realized that, damn, you just got here. You should know everything. You don't know nothing. And with term limits in some states, you have 8-year turnover, 16-year turnover. Without that continuity, and people know sports, they know continuity, right? Yeah. Without that continuity, we just follow behind. So now you get to a point of you have elected officials who only care about being on social media. I love Jasmine Crockett, but she be doing the most, right? To be real, because you have to be effective. Mm-hmm. You can't just be on social media. You got to be effective too. And if it don't blend and look the same, it's like, damn, like you always on social media. And that's what we end up having. Not just her. You end up having a lot of people, right? And they end up talking about the nonsense, like I said earlier, student loans. I told one guy from Palm Beach, he went off on me, bro, tried me, but no, I checked him. It's like, bro, you going to the poorest areas of the state with 28% unemployment rate, talking about student loan debt. The only niggas coming out of Belgrade are going to the NFL, right? They don't even have no student loan debt. So what you're doing is you're talking to people that doesn't relate to them. Mm-hmm. And I don't buy that. So a major part of it is you need people that are connected and understand and not just pushing the narrative. I think I'm going off a tangent here. So let me stop because I don't feel I'm answering your question.
Oh no, hey, listen. I'm telling you, everything that you're saying is valuable to the community. So don't think that you're running on that whole tangent.
I got you.
What is a risk? Is there any risk to becoming a lobbyist?
Yeah, your reputation. I've taken negative hits because people don't even understand. It's kind of like people call people Uncle Tom. They never even read the book, right? There have been times I've been at house parties, 1, 2 in the morning. Somebody said, "Yeah, these fucking lobbyists." What do you mean? Because it's not a fact like we said, good or bad. There are people that don't understand what the world of lobbyists or lobbying is, but they have a negative because they listen to MSNBC and Fox News and they hear this troll. Oh, the lobbyists in their pockets. That's not what it is. You don't understand. You don't understand half of this shit.
Yeah.
But to me, that's a negative hit because it's two things. One, people look at the profession wrong and they don't understand it. The other part of it is people who are in your family, your friends, always want to talk about politics. I don't want to talk about this shit. Like my father-in-law is a pastor. I used to represent some churches as well. And it's kind of hard for me because he's like, hey, if I want to talk about Trump, I want to talk about Biden, I want to talk about Kamala Harris. I'm like, bro, it's kind of tough because don't you get a point where you don't want to talk about Jesus? Like you don't want to take a break? And he was like, well, no, and I'm like, no, bro, because you got to understand, this is my work. I'm reading the news. I'm on top of the news. I'm on top of this every day. So sometimes I just want to clock out.
Yeah.
And so it's not a point of, hey, I just want to have a conversation about Donald Trump. I just did content on Donald Trump. I just had 5 phone calls about Donald Trump. I seen the impact because my organization is impacted by the Department of Energy from Donald Trump's actions. So I don't want to talk about this shit. Can we take a break? That is the biggest thing, because you end up being, because there's not a lot of black folks who are lobbyists, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have a family member or friend and they understand, like, I want to talk. I've been waiting. And this, I get this. Listen, I don't went to the Outlet Mall in Palm Beach, and even I'm from Palm Beach, Florida. When I go home, sometimes the people see me in the outlet I'm shopping, bro. I've been meaning to talk to you about some politics, bro. Wait, tell me your thoughts. I'm walking through the store and people asking me questions about politics, like, bro, you don't think I don't give a fuck right now? Right? So that's the part where it's kind of like, yes, it's a benefit of being involved. But then the other part of it is, I realize it's a blessing and a curse. As my wife will tell me, some people will look at the players, the 100 of us in this process, or 60 of us in Florida, and kind of be the saving grace because they're emotionally disconnected. They're emotionally torn, and like, you know what, at least give me something that works, right? And they kind of get that. My only issue is, even now, like my homie Byron Donalds, I'm a Democrat, he's a Republican for what it is, but I don't have beef with him being a Republican, right? I'm a Clippers fan, he's a Lakers fan. That's our beef. We don't have no other beef, but politically, you can say what you want to say online. Me and his wife cool, and everything. It's like, if I go tell people, yeah, he's about to be the next governor of Florida, people get upset. And so, listen, it's a deeper conversation. You don't understand what's really happening in the world of politics, but they're lining it up for him to be the first black governor of Florida. But you got to do it some kind of way. And my sports analogy to that is, we all know somebody who probably averaged 30 points, like a Pat Bev, 30 points, 12 assists in high school, right? Like, damn, top player in the state. Then they get to the NBA, and they're only playing defense to get rebounds, right? And it's like, you've seen this player, you've seen him ball in college, even though maybe 12, 15 points, but you know that they can get buckets. They have a role to play. P.J. Brown wasn't going to score 30 points a night. He had rebounds and defense, right? People have a role to play. So even in politics, Democrat, Republican, black, white, people have a role in this, because what they forget is, remember I told you earlier, you got to be powerful enough to get somebody to come move out your bed and go vote for you, right? Mm-hmm. Argue with your family, everything else. So then you have a room. Check this out. You have a room of 100 and 200 leaders that's all been elected. That's all moved people out the room. How many people you think actually have power in that room? 5, 10 maybe. Yeah. So imagine you elected to be powerful, but you ain't got no damn power at all. It's only 5 or 10 people pulling the purse strings to find out, hey, are you going to get money for your district? Are you going to pass a law? Is the rest of this actually going to happen? And then the lobbyist job is identifying who those 4 or 5 people are, the 5 to 10 people are, in this sea of elected people. Mm-hmm. Because it's real. It's like the NBA. All the people get drafted. It's LeBron, Steph Curry, Tatum. Everybody's not a fucking superstar.
Right.
Understand that.
Yep.
So it's like, you have to realize, okay, who was the elected official? Because here's the other part of it. You can have somebody from Miami, and you can have a healthcare issue, but they're only on education committees. They're only on environmental committees. They're only on issues like finance and tax dealing with banking, right? Now you have a whole nother issue you're not even prepared to deal with, because you have an issue with education or healthcare, whatever, that they have no direct relation to, that they will never see unless you educate them. And guess what? At that point, you got to find somebody else that actually cares about that, and also find out, are they the superstar, are they the leader, or are they just a player, a vet on a minimum deal who may get a good luck charm going out of here, right? So it's all strategy on how you look at the field and like, okay, cool, how you play the game.
Look, I know you helping me learn how to play the game better today with these analogies. I'm trying to let you know, brother.
That works.
Let me ask you this. We got a couple more questions before we get out of here. In 2025, how do you see the landscape of government and lobbyists going together? Like, how do you see this moving with all the emotions that are being spreaded, the content that this administration is creating? Like, how do you see things moving?
I think it gets to a point where people are really going to have to educate themselves now. I mean, I think it's real if people put it in perspective, right? I think in the black community, we thought that when Obama got elected, everything would end. Racism didn't die, but things will come in. Trump came in after, so we're going back to slavery, right? And there was this, we're going back to slavery. And it's like, my thing is this, right? And I'm not an anti-Trumper. He is who he is, right? End of the day. But after Central Park 5, Jay-Z still was staying at the Trump International asked for me, right? So don't come tell me that we were canceling him when Lil Jon was on The Apprentice, right? So all that put together, to me, it's like, yes, the birther thing, but to be real, you can't expect America to all of a sudden elect a black guy with a weird name, because before that, everybody was on Hillary nuts.
Yep.
Didn't Jesse Jackson say they need to cut this nigga balls off on the interview? Right? So let's not act like Barack was like the savior that we love him and Michelle at today, right? Mm-hmm. So realize to the point, Trump came in, we're going to slavery. Biden came in, and I even said the first Biden win, that wasn't about us. That's about white America. White America, like, listen, let's just hit the reset button real quick, and then we'll come back, right? And now we're back to Trump. I'm not worried about 2025. If you're worried about, if you had a DEI contract, if you had a CRT contract, if you had a contract with the government that got canceled, cool. Guess what? You should have prepared for that. Because unless they kept having more George Floyds, there's no way the DEI is going to continue to happen. Now, it's the reality, because the real shit of it is, I was at conferences in 2023 and they were talking about getting rid of DEI. So it's not as if it just came out of the blue with Trump. They've already started scaling back and moving things around. So there's not that dump to it. So 2025, I see there has to be a greater point of education. We cannot sit here and try to hire LeBron James to give us tennis and soccer tips. Check me out. I'm going somewhere with it, right? You can't hire Andre Agassi to tell you how to play soccer or football, right? You cannot listen to Roland Martin, a journalist. You cannot, excuse me. I'm going to start that over. You cannot listen to Roland Martin, a journalist. You cannot listen to Jamal Bryant, a pastor. You cannot listen to even Cornel West, a professor, talk to you about policy.
Come on.
You need to talk to a nigga that knows it. And I'm not just saying me. Talk to somebody who does it, because guess what? They can't do nothing but stir the pot. Joanne Reed, I get it. Yes, she's a journalist. Mm-hmm. She's not a lobbyist. She's not an elected official. And yes, the thing is, the elected officials who are comfortable with her go to her to express. They go to Roland to express. Roland Martin made $500,000 off Kamala Harris. How much did you get?
Come on, man.
Right? This is poverty pimping at its best. Because the thing about it is, and even Ben Crump, he's a friend of mine, but he's also be poverty pimping with the bullshit. And I got to be real with it, right? Because what we like to do is have these black elected leaders or black leaders take the damn headlines and talk about, they're doing something. I'm going to tell you this. I got the Omega Lamplighters, $250,000 the first year, $250,000, solo, by myself, right? An organization under Omega Psi Phi fraternity, the fraternity that Ben Crump is in, right? A week after we got our first disbursement, he decides to hold a press conference for banning AP African American history in the state of Florida. If you even knew, AP, I went to IB school. There are not a lot of kids taking AP courses in high school. Let's be real about that first. The second we get our disbursement, he takes one of my Lamplighters kids and has a damn press conference with cover on top of the New York Times, Washington Post, all over, talking about he's having a lawsuit against DeSantis. I called him and cussed him out. I'm saying, listen, you could coon all day for these niggas, but guess what? You're not going to do is coon for my kids, right? Because we're having an impact, and we're actually making an impact in this state, and we're doing what we've got to do. So Ben Crump, you can take this bullshit and go somewhere else, because guess what? You and your team are full of shit because you only did this lawsuit to get ahead of the Southern Poverty Law Center. I know enough people to know the bullshit, right? So let's stop the bullshit and stop placating the bullshit, because you're a lawyer who's profiting off of people dying. Because guess what? When my homegirl's baby daddy was shot down by the police and they called your office, guess what? You decided to say, because he had priors, we can't look into it. We're not going to fight for justice for this one because he had priors. So don't come with me with the bullshit when you're just playing. And that's the problem we have with leaders. Again, you're not going to LeBron James to learn how to play tennis for your kid or soccer. Yep. You're going to go to the experts, and we're listening to people who have no expertise in the solution. They have expertise in stirring the pot for the emotions. And that's what we need to disconnect in 2025.
Now you're really preaching, because the whole, look, I'm here in D.C. The CBC gets on my nerves. The NAACP gets on my nerves. Like, yo, y'all are bullshitting to me.
Right.
and it's just an emotional stare up. But what is a resource or something that you can leave with the community that they should dive into if they wanted to look into more lobbying or if they wanted to become a lobbyist themselves? Do you have like one or two resources that you could throw out there for them to take a look at? Or two?
I would say Ballotpedia. Learn your elected officials. You have to learn your elected officials piece and seeing how they kind of got to where they're at. And I would say AI, Google, Perplexity. You have to understand. Like I wouldn't say there's a Rolodex of knowledge, right? Because there's really not. It's a point of understanding process. You have to understand process more than anything. And when you understand what a bicameral government is, when you understand how budgets get in, when you even understand what proviso language is, that is all intricate parts of how government operates. So get a thesaurus and learn the lingo. You learn what an amendment is. Learn how the amendment works. People talk about, how do you file it? People always want to focus on how do you file a bill? How does a law get changed? The commercial or the path that bills that we know, Schoolhouse Rock, that's not the reality. You don't need a bill to change laws. You can file an amendment in committee, right? You could get proviso in to fund money. You don't even have to do a lot of things that you think it is. You could get proviso language to get a government contract for Black-owned businesses, right? Mm-hmm. It's a fact of the amount of money it's going to cost to actually implement and the fact of the impact. So you don't understand that until you understand the lingo and the language. So you got to understand process first.
Hey, and one big thing y'all better do is follow my brother over here so you can get somebody that, I like to cheat. Everything that I do is about cheating to me. And when I say cheating, it's, don't try to build this house by yourself when it was already built. Like, follow the person that already got a house up and running and literally mimic exactly what they're doing, and you'll find yourself down that path 10 times faster than trying to start everything from scratch by yourself, building things that you ain't never put a roof on a house a day in your life. How you just going to randomly know how to put a roof on your house? So
like you two don't have all the answers.
Heck no. I know. Again, we're about to get out of here. You're the hip hop lobbyist. Who's your favorite artist?
Shit, that's tough. It depends on the time. It was Tupac for a while, to be honest. I've been back on Tupac recently, but it really depends on the season. I'll stick to Tupac to be to be safe.
Tupac gets you in the mood, ready to go to them streets and.
It's been what I've been listening to lately, really more Machiavelli, like trading war stories. It's a zone I haven't listened to Tupac in maybe 10 years for real. And I think the Kendrick vibe from GNX and the whole thing last year really just put me on the West Coast. So I'm gonna go Tupac right now. But honestly, I've been more old school disco, like Nile Rodgers lately. And with my son, Bob Marley, whatever. So it's a mix. But I would say Tupac to be safe for today's conversation.
And my last question for you: what is the biggest lesson or takeaway that you have learned thus far from being in the industry for the amount of time that you've been, that you would want to share with the audience?
People don't want to learn. People want to complain about politics. They don't want to learn. Because to me, I'll leave with this one. Y'all remember they took AP African American history and they banned books in Florida, and they took African American history out of Florida, right? And all these pastors were saying it's time for us to take our kids back and teach the history for our kids, right? Mm-hmm. Cool. Have you heard of the school to prison pipeline?
Yep.
How long has the school to prison pipeline been around? Why all the black pastors ain't talk about the school to prison pipeline all this time? But they talking about African American history getting snatched up out of school. They want to come teach black kids. You ain't care shit about these black kids' education, because when it comes to Easter program and the Christmas program, when you had that one or two kid that could actually read the program and present in front of the church, you were happy to have that because you didn't care. You didn't give a shit about the kids' education, right? It's about really understanding to get out the emotions of the nonsense to be real. Don't come tell me you're going to come teach my kids after they take African American history out. When the kids couldn't read by third grade, you didn't even open a school to say, hey, let's go take care of our kids' education. Because right now they're talking about defunding the public schools, right? Yesterday they signed the bill to abolish the federal Department of Education, send the money back to the states. You know what they're doing in Oklahoma, Texas, South Carolina, in other states right now, Arkansas as well. They're basically saying if you have an educational savings account, which is an account that they can give to parents, right? You can look in Oklahoma Supreme Court justice ruled on it because the Republicans are fighting about it in the conservative states. They're saying that, if I give the parent the student voucher money, and the parent decides that one student can go to the public school and they'll be perfectly fine, but this other kid will do better in the private school setting, that's technically not government giving money to a private school because a parent made the decision, right? So if they're going to make it more advantageous, and I've been saying this for months, since the campaign really, to educate our kids, why the fuck are you trying to send them to the public school? It doesn't make sense. Because if LeBron James can go open a school, if Flo Rida and Jalen Rose and all these other black leaders can go open a school, why are we sitting here talking about banning African-American AP history? We're going to sue the governor. Why don't you put that same legal money you're going to put in the lawsuit, and why don't you go open a school? Because it don't take that much. That same $1 million that you're going to sue the governor with, guess what? That's enough to open a school in a charter district in a major county in the state of Florida.
God dang.
So we're not taking real perspective to the shit. That's why, for what people, they like me, they don't like me.
Yeah.
They like me because I'm gonna keep it real. They don't like it when I end up turning the fire on their ass because listen, you bullshitting too, right? And that's really what it is, because at the end of the day, it's not about being gang. Well, honestly, I would say this to be real. I've seen thugs, street thugs. I've seen gangsters. When I was at the bank, one of my customers was actually in the mafia, right? Out of respect, I'm not going to say his name, but he was a made man, right? At the end of the day, you see gangsters in different forms. The most gangster shit I've ever seen is somebody filing a bill on the house floor. We're killing your shit. The shit's dead. Talking to them while they're on the mic where everybody who could watch is watching. And I'm like, I ain't never seen no gangster shit like this before, because they're going to belittle your educational standpoint, your views, and embarrass you. And you got to have the linguistic ability to fight back with them and not put your hands on their ass for disrespecting you. Because going to slap the shit out of somebody, that's not gangster. I can end up in jail. That's assault, right? I'm in jail with everybody else. That's not gangster. But me going to verbally assassinate you and diminish your character and make you look belittled for what it is verbally, and still got to sit here and look at me and we can't talk and we're not going to slap each other, that's the most gangster shit I ever seen.
It's real gangster.
Gangster shit I ever seen, bro.
Look, you again have provided our community with so much information. I don't let you know. I like the way that you operate and the way that you talk. That's why I brought you here. Hopefully my community was able to enjoy it as well. Make sure y'all drop a fire emoji down there in the chat if y'all love this information. Again, my brother, I appreciate you taking the time out to break this down to us. I know it's impossible to get all the information out in the time frame that we had. So this is why I'm encouraging you guys. Make sure you follow my brother over here, Hip Hop Lobbyist. I wanted to say something real quick, because I kept thinking when you said LeBron can open a school, well, what the hell is Dr. Umar doing with his school?
Come on, man. Like you can't placate the bullshit for so. And here's the other thing, even with Umar, because like good friend of mine, decent friend of mine, Phillip Agnew, former Dream Defenders, right? It's the same thing, man. See, here's the mindset. Here's what these Negroes be doing. They go read James Baldwin, and then they go read these other African literature, and they take this whole civil rights from Reconstruction to the Civil Rights era. And then they talk about all the injustices throughout America, and then they revert back to it. In Ghana, they doing this, and in Nairobi, they doing this, and they took us out of this, but they're not talking about current day. And that's the issue, because here's the reality of it, right? AI, Meta, whatever you want, AI is the future. How many of these Dr. Umars out here talking about computer science education, making sure that your kids can learn how to code? Because guess what? In Florida, at least, if you're a middle school student, you could take the coding certifications and have a job with C++, AWS certification, Azure, whatever it is, making $70,000 a year before you even get to high school. You don't even make a YouTube channel. So think about that. So if the mindset is generational wealth, that's what these niggas be talking about online. Generational wealth, right? Why are we trying to do it the old way?
Come on.
Like, let's be real. You tell me I'm making $70,000, $60,000, $40,000 in high school?
In high school.
Come on, bro. Certified. And guess what? You can sit here because the thing is, the reality of it is, we have to teach our kids these basics. And if we're not trying to strengthen the math numbers, because people don't realize that we get in the government, we're not talking about school to prison pipeline. We're talking about literacy rates, right? We're talking about strengthening math pathways. And you know what that means? How do we get the kids in low income Title I schools in the poorest environments, underserved communities? How do we get the best math scores out of these kids? How can we teach them the rubric that they need so they can understand and potentially get jobs? Because guess what? If you can go see a flying drone and all these other things, you're like, damn, I want to do that. All you need is the exposure. How do we expose these kids and find out, okay, cool, yes, we need some trash men. Yes, we need some teachers. Yes, we need some lobbyists and elected officials. But we also need the mathematician that's going to solve something. We cannot sit here and emotionally charge all the bullshit and sit here and expect results. We got to look at the reality of what's out here. Like, okay, this is the play. They decided they're going to trap me in the corner for the 3. Bring 2 people over. Keep a man at the top of the key to look for my outlet pass. But I know if I have a cutter going to the basket, guess what? I'm getting a slam dunk. You got to read the play. Yep. And if you're not reading the play as a community, we're going to sit here because guess what? We do it. Because my thing, you want to be good at politics? Learn how to play John Madden football. Learn how to play 2K. Learn how to play spades and learn how to play chess. Because the mental fortitude you get in all those games is exactly how you play politics. Because nobody is leading a game of spades with the big joker.
Nope.
You're going to lead, okay, this is the ace. Guess what? Here's my ace. I've been around for 5 years. I'm impacting 1,000 kids. All right, cool. They got aces out, hearts out. Okay, cool. I ain't got no club, so I'm going to just play off because guess what? I have nothing that relates to what you're talking about. But when it comes down to, okay, you're doing this program for these kids, and you're touching 1,200 kids in this state. Yeah, you know what my big joker is? It costs $1,000 for you to do it at DJJ. It costs my organization $255. Come on. We're saving the state $750 by investing in this program as a partnership. Because guess what? We're self-sustaining without you. We don't need the state. We want to partner with you because we're going to make an impact regardless. So when I drop that big joke and ain't no more deuces on the table. No. Hey, get up, boys. Give him his $250,000, please. Because guess what? We know what's going to happen. It's a game, man. We got to learn how to read the play.
That's the way that you guys in the interview right there. I'm telling you, your analogy game is crazy. I just want to let you know that right there, bro.
I appreciate that, bro.
You do a hell of a job at it. Again, I thank you for taking your time out to pour into my community. I'm asking you guys, go follow my brother over here. And most importantly, get yourselves educated. Like, I want you guys to continue reading. But are there any last words that you want to leave off before we get out of here?
No, I think I said a lot. I appreciate you and your community, Dr. Davis, for inviting me on. Please feel free to invite me anytime. Be more than happy to share some insights with you that can be more into not only the career, but if there's any policies, contracts, any opportunities, I'd love to come back, educate your community, or at least engage with them. But hip hop lobbyists, every streaming platform, every social media platform, like, subscribe, follow. I appreciate y'all.
And if y'all want to play him in some Madden online, he online too. He may talk some trash to you. You know what I'm saying? Because I done seen him talking trash to a couple of these players, these gamers out there. So you may get a little bit of that, but go ahead and challenge him, get that W in, and then let me know if you beat him or not. Because if you lose, I'm definitely going to talk trash.
Hey, I'm gonna let you know now. I stream. We stream for charity, so we can play, but you gotta put something up for charity. Win, lose, or draw, somebody's gonna win.
I like that right there. Right. I appreciate you. You enjoy your day.
All right, thank you, brother.
Hey guys, look, first of all, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for taking the time out to be on this live stream. I hope that y'all got value out of today. I know I got a ton of value out of today. I actually got to go watch my own replay so I could break this stuff down because, you know, government contracting is shifting. And I need to get myself more educated in things that I didn't know, like lobbying that we learned today. So I'm very appreciative of him taking his time out. But Mr. Singleton's doing amazing things out there in Florida. But I encourage you guys, don't stop here, right? Don't just take this one video and run with it. You need to get educated too. You need to start reading up on the laws in your state, in your local county, your districts. We got to start getting more educated in these things, knowing who the players are in each space as well. But again, I thank you guys for being here today. We usually don't go live on Fridays. So I truly do thank you guys for taking out your time on a Friday to be here. But we need to spread this word. You know, I know this isn't a video that's as entertaining as others. Most people don't want to learn about this industry, but each and every one of you guys are continuing to get this message out. The channel's growing, the message is going out deeper and deeper, and it's because of each and every one of you guys. So I thank you all. I appreciate you for being here with us today. I hope that you guys enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Have a great day.